In this video, we're going to change a toilet tank fill valve that is either constantly running and wasting water or not filling up your tank at all. The replacement part number is listed on the video and on the description as well, and there's a picture of it here. We'll start off by shutting off the water to the tank. That's the first thing you should always do. Shut off the water. You don't want to create a mess unnecessarily. The second step is flush the toilet. Make sure all the water is out of the tank. I already done this before, so my water is shut off and I already flushed my toilet. The tank is empty. We will loosen the pipe that goes from the valve to the tank. It'll leak a little bit. Make sure you have a container underneath to catch all that water. Now after you flush, there's usually a little bit left of water around the flap. What you want to make sure is that it's dry. Once you take out the actual valve, leftover water will leak to that side and it will seep down the tank into that container you put underneath. So make sure to dry it here so that way nothing leaks down. Now you should be able to unscrew and remove the hose from the valve to the tank. Maybe a little bit leftover water, make sure you dump that into the container, don't make a mess. You can also loosen up the nut that holds the valve in place. Make sure to untighten it, remove it with your hand, not with a wrench. A wrench may be too strong for the plastic and may break the actual nut. Not that you're going to reuse this nut, but it's good to keep just in case. You can unpin the second rubber hose and remove the valve. Put it to the side, garbage can with a bag. It's perfect, so it doesn't leak anywhere. We will need this in a few minutes just to compare levels of the actual float. While you're here, you may also check this hose, make sure there are no cracks. It's easy to replace. You do need a wrench to replace it, but it's easy to replace if you need to. These replacement kits do come with a replacement rubber gasket and a new plastic nut for your new valve. We'll start with a dry fit just to make sure all the parts fit nicely inside of the tank. That looks pretty good. We'll remove the chain here in this case to give us a little bit more space to work with. It's fairly easy to remove and we can always pop it back on a little bit later. Fairly easy to remove. There we go. So now the instructions do say that we should have 3 inches between the top of the valve, that blue top, and the top of the black pipe that drains into the bowl. So I did measure it and it does look like a closer 3 inches. That distance to the right should be closer 3 inches. And according to the manual, it should be 3 inches. So we're okay to proceed. Now we'll take the valve back out, retrieve the old valve from the garbage can, and we'll compare the float levels from the old one to the new one. This will make our adjustments later on much simpler to make. As you can see, that twisty, long, screw-like thing needs to be adjusted. On the old one, it looks like the tank filled up with a lot more water than it would have if I left it as is. So we'll twist that clockwise to get the levels pretty similar to the old valve. And it's not too easy to twist, especially with one hand, but it does twist. It's just a plastic piece, so be careful not to break it in any way. Yeah, don't try to be rough like I am doing here. Yeah, I'm gonna end up breaking this. All right, so let's get the other hand and twist that clockwise. There you go, clockwise. And we'll match as close as we can to the old valve. That looks pretty good. We can now dispose of the old valve. We won't need it anymore. The kit came with these 3 pieces in this bag. The rubber gasket. Now we can actually insert the rubber gasket on the valve now and get it ready to put in the tank. And the plastic nut. Once the valve is in place, the tank will tighten it from the bottom. Pretty good fit. It doesn't matter the location now. We'll adjust a little bit later. Now the plastic nut. I don't know if you saw it before. I did save the old plastic nut just in case I accidentally break the new one. And we'll tighten it a little bit so we can adjust the other pieces, the other parts of the valve prior to fully tightening it. We don't need to tighten the water hose yet. This comes a little bit later. As you can see, you can still twist the valve a little bit. We want to find a spot where the water spigot, the little white water spigot, is in direct line with the black pipe, and also the float level stopper, the one we adjusted before, does not hit the handle of the toilet tank. Yeah, so direct line is probably the best, but now we'll have to twist it a little later after we install the rubber hose. This one came with a blue regulator at the tip. This allows us to adjust how much water goes into the tank. I'm sorry, how much water goes into the bowl as the tank is filling up. So some water goes on the bottom of the valve, filling up the tank, and some water gets directed to this rubber hose, which goes inside the black pipe. That black pipe drains to your toilet bowl and usually fills up the toilet bowl if you need to fill it up. Most times when you flush a toilet, the water remaining in the toilet bowl is enough to stay there. If it's not, then that's the valve that we will use to adjust how much water goes into the toilet bowl. More on that a little bit later. Yeah, these little blue holders, they're very flimsy. I'm not sure how much they are doing for this, but it's here, so let's use them for now. Alright, so let's switch the camera angle so it's easier to see when I install the other plastic holder. So this is definitely a better angle to show you how to insert that second end of the rubber hose. So you insert it into that little connector. It'll keep the hose in place as it's filling up the tank and or the bowl. Now you just insert it on the side of the black pipe in the middle of the toilet tank. That way the water that's directed from the valve into the rubber hose gets sent into the pipe, which in turn goes into your toilet bowl. Be careful with the clip. It's plastic, so you don't want to break it. It slides easily on the side, and it'll definitely keep that rubber hose in place. You see that rubber hose is slightly too long. You can either trim a piece of it or just twist it, as I did here. And we'll start off with the lever, the little adjuster on the max. We'll see how much water comes out if we need. We'll make adjustments a little later. Now we'll reattach the chain. Again, just mentioning again, you should change the flap, as it's one of the most common things you should change. We'll wait until I get a new flap, since the kit that we purchased does not have the right size. So we'll change the flap when we get the new kit. But yeah, that's one of the most replaceable pieces in a toilet. It is most likely to leak through that section, as it doesn't make the full seal once the rubber becomes brittle. We'll reattach the water hose now. Again, let's not use a wrench. Let's try to tighten it by hand, as tight as you can, so it doesn't leak, but not with a wrench. A wrench will damage that plastic nut, potentially breaking it, and that's not what we want. And this hose is in great condition, so we're not going to replace that this time around. Let's turn on that water. And you should turn it on until make sure there's no leaks. Take a look at the bottom of the valve. You see the water pouring into and filling the tank, and also the rubber pipe. There's a lot of water coming through there as well. Let's adjust the valve so that when it does fill up, the float doesn't hit the handle, the turning handle on the tank. And minor adjustment. Make sure that the rubber is not too tight against the edge of the tank here. This looks pretty good. Nice distance. Notice how the water strength in the rubber pipe is quite strong. The more water that goes into this black pipe to the right, the less water fills up your tank. As you can see, nothing's really dripping into the toilet bowl, so all that water is being flushed behind the toilet, and we're pretty much wasting that water. So we'll be adjusting that very soon. Not as full. We'll almost full. Oh, I touched it. So yeah, it's full. We'll flush and see how much water is left in the toilet bowl afterwards. This should give us a better idea of how much we should tighten that lever, that blue lever, on the rubber pipe. So it flushed properly, it's sealed properly, and as you can see, it's filling up again. So good job so far. So we're back here, this black pipe. This is where the water gets directed into the toilet bowl after you flush, and it's filling up the tank. And it levels out the amount, how much water you have in the bowl itself. So according to the instructions, you should dump 1 gallon of water into the toilet and then mark it. Then flush the toilet and check how much water is left after the flush. If it matches what you had marked for that 1 gallon you poured in, then you're good to go. If it's not, then adjust the lever more or less. I will start off with nothing. Let's tighten that valve completely and push no water into that pipe. By tightening this valve, we're going to stop the water from flowing into this pipe and being wasted pretty much. So let's start by tightening completely with no water going into that black pipe and then flushing. Let's see how much water goes into our toilet bowl after we flush. The tightest is at 2 currently. Even though there's a 0, it's just as tight as 2. By doing this, we also are potentially filling up the tank much quicker, which is also great. And this is the tedious part. So let's flush again and see how far the toilet bowl fills up this time around with no water going into it. In our case, it may just be okay. Let's hope so, because look at that. It looks great. Good level. If you want a little bit more, adjust it according to your liking, but it looks pretty good so far. So therefore, we'll leave that valve closed completely. And as you can see, because the water is not being wasted on the black pipe, the tank is halfway full already. So this will speed up the filling process for sure. And do one more adjustment on that valve. Make sure it's not hitting any other parts as well. That looks pretty close. Let's turn that and adjust it a little bit. Now that it's full, we can actually adjust it so that it won't touch any of these parts, and you'll have free flow up and down. There we go. That should be enough. It's small enough gap. One won't interfere with the other now, which is perfect. Let's check all the parts to make sure nothing is rubbing or squishing against the walls of the tank. But everything looks good, so let's flush one more time just to confirm everything is great. The flush is good, and the leftover water is also good. So we're looking good here. And no more water going into that black pipe, no wasted water, and the tank is also filling up quite quickly. And that level of water is pretty good. If in your case, when you do change your valve and the level of water in the bowl is too little, you can always adjust that lever again to increase the amount of water that goes into your toilet bowl. And that's it. Place the top on the tank, then you're good to go. The kit also comes with that the lever, but it was in chrome, so I figured we'll keep that cream color that matches the toilet bowl and the tank, and we'll save the chrome for another time. And just to reiterate, we purchased a 2-inch kit. Our toilet is a 3-inch flapper, so we will be buying the flapper separately and replacing just the flapper. This should be one of those check it once a year sort of things for you, as the flapper is probably the first point of failure that will make your toilet run a little bit. The rubber becomes brittle and doesn't make the proper seal, and it'll start leaking into your bowl. So check it yearly for sure. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out one of my other DIY videos. And if I can do it, so can you.